Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Content Creators University. I'm very excited every single time we have this rendezvous. You guys know this is something that we do every single week, right? Every week we come here and we bring you guys one of the best leaders, right? Minds in the tech world, people that really have done things that you and we want to learn, right? That's the whole thing. And there's a saying that says that you need to surround yourself with smarter people in the room, right? So we say the day you stop learning, you stop growing. So this is the place where we want to keep learning, keep growing, keep, bringing those amazing folks that are give us the blueprint in order for us to be 1% better every single time. And today we have another amazing guest. We'll talk about him in a little bit. If you're new to the platform, allow me to introduce myself. My name is JP Hightek. I am a global branding and media expert. I work with individual small business and, corporations build a premium brand. If you appreciate it, go ahead and, subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're listening to the podcast, hop on YouTube, look for at JP Hightek, at JPHIGHTEK, and subscribe to our channel, and let's grow together. One thing that we do every week, every single Tuesday, we show up here and we have this rendezvous. And so we talk about the news, because if you didn't know, this show is both sponsored and listener supported, right? And so we want to thank our sponsors that are working with us, that's been with us, since the beginning, and the new ones that are also partnering with us here. We want to give them a shout out, and right after that, then we bring our guest onto the stage. So in the next couple of minutes, we'll talk about our sponsor. So don't go anywhere. Buckle up, family. We'll be right back. Stay with me.
This is Todd.
Hi.
This is Todd's mom.
Hi.
In a moment, Todd's mom will read her son's internet browsing history.
What?
Aloud, please.
No.
Supermodels on trampolines.com. Why don't girls like me? How to overcome an overbearing mother.
Okay, cut.
If you wouldn't want
Stop.
mom looking through your web history, why would you let hackers, ad companies, or your internet and cellular provider do the same thing?
Why does my junk burn?
They can track and record everything you do online, but not if you have ExpressVPN.
Why did you buy a $200 ninja outfit?
For fighting.
ExpressVPN apps keep your activity and identity private while you browse, stream, email, or download. Protect all of your devices with just one click.
Are my hands small?
Okay, I'm done. You guys are all terrible people.
ExpressVPN. Take back your privacy today.
Ooh.
All right, family. Let's go ahead and talk about our sponsors here. And we have a couple of things to talk to you guys about. I mean, amazing things happening, right? And so right here, we're talking about ExpressVPN. You watched the ad. ExpressVPN is a virtual private network. And if you're looking to protect your assets, right, your investment, especially if you spend a lot of time online, and we know a lot of content creators or creators, period, spend a lot of time online. If you use technology in any shape or form, any capacity, well, I want to encourage you to protect what you're doing. And one of the ways you can do that is using the virtual private network. I personally use them. I've been using them way before they became a sponsor. And I can tell you they are good at what they do. So again, if you're looking to get a deal, if you're part of this community here, I want to encourage you to go to the website expressvpn.com/JP Hightek. Get yourself free 3-month and a 12-month subscription today. You will not regret that, family. Go ahead and check it out right now. Now, I want to let you guys know, for the folks that did not know, we have our own private community, and that is called Content Creators University, right? It's not a Facebook group. It's an actual private community of like-minded thinkers, professional leaders, people that really are looking to make something serious with their businesses, with their creation, right? With leveraging, this creator economy, which is something that we're about to talk about today, which is a big deal, understanding how to navigate within this creator economy. Well, there's one thing that is, said by a smart man, smarter than me. He said, if you really want to grow, make sure that you find yourself in the room of people that will help you grow, right? And so if you want to, grow your network and really be, connect with those amazing leaders, well, go ahead. Go to the website, contentcreatorsuniversity.com today, and, create a free account. And let's connect. Let's grow together. And finally, for the folks that are like, JP, we just want to connect with you. We want to work with you. We want to invite you to come and speak at our next event. Well, go ahead, visit my website today, and that is jphightek.com/speaking. Again, jphightek.com/speaking. Let's see if we're, a good fit for each other, or if you're just trying to connect with me. Of course, the handle's at JP Hightek. Let's go ahead and grow together today. I know, I'm always looking for ways to expand my network and connect with amazing folks just like you guys. So looking forward to that. Now, enough about me. We have a guest behind stage that is eager to really come here. His name is Joe Pulizzi. I practiced that. I wanted to say the Z like that. I know he'll be laughing backstage right now. But Joe is an amazing fella, right? We connected in person at a conference this year at Orlando, Florida, and I was really impacted by his presentation. Really, he gave me food for thought, right? Like they said, and I'm glad that him and I were able to find a common ground where he's here today. And a little bit about him: he's the founder of multiple startups, including content creator education site like the Tilt Content Entrepreneur Expo (CEX), and is the best-selling author of 7 books, including Content Inc. and Epic Content Marketing, which was named a must-read business book by Fortune magazine. That is amazing, right? And Joe is best known for his work in content marketing, first using the term in 2001, then launching Content Marketing Institute and the Content Marketing World event. In 2014, something happened. He received the Lifetime Achievement Award by the Content Council. He successfully exited CMI in 2016 and consequently wrote an award-winning mystery novel, The Will to Die. Go check it out, family, because he is a multiple, best-selling author, and he has 2 weekly podcasts as well. So he's the creator. He understands us here. And he has the Motivational Content Inc. podcast and the award-winning content news and analysis show called This Old Marketing with Robert Rose. Really, really amazing. His foundation, The Orange Effect, delivers speech therapy and technology services to over 350, children in 37 states. That's a lot, Joe. He's about to talk to us about that in a little bit. And one thing that we agree on is he's also a family man. His family live in Cleveland, Ohio. And ladies and gentlemen, he's here with us today. And I'm about to bring him onto the stage right after this few second intro. So get ready, grab your popcorn, because we're talking about something, how to really rethink your content tilt business. What does that even mean? What does tilt mean? Well, I was introduced to that. And so get ready, family, right after this. Let's go. All right. What's going on, Joe? Happy Tuesday. How are you today?
JP, how you doing? I realized I need a stylist. I need a new stylist after watching all those promo clips with you. And plus, you're bringing, we talked before the show, that jacket is fantastic. And I want to get it. I'm gonna go find it after the show.
Hey, I'll send you the link
somewhere.
Appreciate that.
Please do. I don't know if I could I don't know if I could pull it off, but I certainly want to try. So,
hey, man,
thanks for having me, sir. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Of course. The honor is all ours here. I was trying to match you, understanding your colors, and it's coming nice on the screen. I mean, if you're not watching this, you listen to the podcast, you need to hop on YouTube and come and check us out. It's really, really cool, man. I'm really, really excited because after we met at the conference this year, in Orlando, you had a presentation that I believe resonated not just with me, right, with a whole lot of creators. Anybody that is in the creator economy today needed to care about some of the things that you were talking about. And I wanted you to come here today so we can, expand a little bit on that, simply because, it's just important, right? It's important for us to be awoken to certain things. Yeah, you got me thinking, Joe. So before we dive into all of that, I want you to take a minute. Go ahead, introduce yourself in your own words to the audience today. Tell them why didn't I mention. Go for it. Take it away.
No, I mean, you mentioned a lot, so you read the full bio. So I don't know if I want to go through all that again, but I did start my content creation journey at the Content Marketing Institute. I started in B2B publishing. I
Hmm.
was lucky enough to find myself in the custom media department at a media company, specifically focusing on content marketing services, which wasn't a thing at the time, JP. And I said, oh my God, as Google came along, as social media, I said, more and more companies are going to have to learn how to create and distribute their own content, just like
Right,
media
right.
companies. I went out in 2007 and started what became Content Marketing Institute. If you know the event, which a lot of people do listening to this
Hmm.
and watching this, Content Marketing World, still the largest content marketing in-person event on the planet. My wife and I had a great team. We decided to sell that business in 2016 and then started. Now I'm really involved with content creators, content entrepreneurs. So basically, I used to work with marketing professionals at larger businesses, at enterprises, and now I'm working with individuals like the two of us, trying to build audiences and then trying to monetize that audience in different ways. And started the Tilt newsletter in 2021 specifically for content creators who are taking this thing seriously, not just as a
Hmm.
hobby. And then Content Entrepreneur Expo, CEX, which will be May 5th to 7th in Cleveland, Ohio, where we'll get 400 to 450 content creators to come together and learn and network together. And I guess more than we see content creators all the time. I'm sure you do all the time that are hobbyists. They're like,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm doing this thing on the side, which is fine. And a lot of people, that's how you get started. But if you're serious and you want to be financially independent and have content creation be your business model, that's a whole different thing. And so that's what I've
Correct.
been focusing on the last 3 years or so.
Love it, man. Love it. I mean, it's so important to understand, and that's what the whole focus is on this podcast. Because one thing is to be a creator, one thing is to love the art of the thing, and another thing is actually to understand how to build a business surrounding your creation. Right? Those are two different
That's right.
things, and there's a strategy in order to follow to be successful at doing that. And whenever you want to build a business, well, the mindset needs to change. Everything, the way you're handling things, got to change in order for you to
That's
even
right.
dream, having something established. So that is really amazing, and kudos to you, because those are really major tools that you've created that are really supporting creators today, especially in this creator economy. So that's amazing. Now, before we dive into the nitty and gritty, we have some fun questions for you, and the first one that I have is, Joe, if you were a superhero, I'm not sure you even like superheroes, but if you were one, who would that superhero be and why?
It's funny when you first mentioned this to me, I said, I think I have to answer my wife. Like, I really think I have to do that.
Great
So first of
answer.
all, I'm going to say my wife. Okay, so that's it. But if you're really talking about superheroes, it's got to be Wonder Woman. And I got a couple
Hmm.
reasons for that. So first of all, Wonder Woman was taught advanced education around the arts and sciences. And I come from the College of Arts and Sciences, specifically with communication and psychology. So I want that. I like that superpower because Wonder Woman understands everyone
Hmm.
immediately. So
Hmm.
it's not really talked about as a superpower. Okay, that aside, 4,000, being able to run 4,000 miles per hour is something that is pretty amazing. So that as a runner, I run 3 or 4 times a week, and I'm like, how do I go faster? So if I,
Right.
outside of
Right.
the invisible plane thing, which is pretty cool, I take the 4,000 miles per hour, how fast she can run. So I'm going to go with Wonder Woman. That's my final answer.
Yo, family, Wonder Woman is it. You're the second guest that we've got on this platform that mentioned Wonder Woman. Actually, the third. Correction, the third. And it's amazing. And that's the most used superhero. So, yeah,
Oh my
kudos
God.
to
I
Wonder
would not have
Woman.
guessed that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
amazing.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. All right. So, a little somewhat serious question, right? And that has to do with your depth of wisdom. If you were to meet yourself today, let's say, Joe, when you were 25 years old, right? If you were to meet yourself and you had the opportunity to give yourself, your 25-year-old self, one major piece of advice, what will that be and why?
Difficult question. I think you first naturally want to go with, oh, I wish I was better. I thought I was more disciplined financially. Maybe I should have picked up Apple stock or something fortune
Hmm.
telling. But honestly, now I'm 50 years old. I've been in the content creation business for over 20 years now. that's all secondary. The number one thing I would tell myself is to spend more time with family and friends. And every year that goes on, it's more about how's my family, my wife, my kids,
Mm-hmm.
the friends that are close to me. I mean, 25 years old, my grandfather, who I still think about every day, was still alive when I was 25, and I wish I would have spent more time with him. So today I'm always thinking about take advantage of the time that you have, and any little bit of extra time that you create, you need to be spending that with the people who love you and the people you love. So that's what I would say. Spend more time with family and friends.
Yeah, man, I love it. It's so deep what you just said, because I mean it's great to have goals. It's great to pursue success and major achievements and all of that. But ultimately, what matters the most are the people you can share that with, right? I mean,
Right.
imagine winning the whole world and then you just have nobody to share it with. That's the worst thing ever. And for me, also, family is number one for me, right?
Right.
I mean, that's what keeps me going. My children, my wife, and even my extended family, right? The love. There's nothing like just having family, be surrounded by people that you love and that love you as well, unconditionally. So, really, really amazing that you bring that up. So, well, since you're on that note, Joe, I want to let the folks know he's also called JP, by the way, if you didn't know. So we got two JPs on stage today. And before I ask you the main core question, start asking you that, I want to give a shout out to the folks that are joining us, right? And so we got quite a few folks joining us. Hey, Hannah, what's good? Thanks for joining us. Let us know, guys, in the comment section where you're joining us from. LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, all of that. Let us know. We really appreciate your presence here. So we're talking something that I believe is important for us to talk about is how to rethink, how to change, shape, or reshape the way we think about our content tilt business, right? And so I know the first thing that came up before the live was folks are like, content tilt, right? They're like, what does that even mean? And so naturally, right, the first question that I want to ask you is, of course, for you to take a minute and share the backstory behind the concept of content tilt. What does it mean, and the significance in content marketing today?
Absolutely. So the content tilt, I started using that term and framework back in 2013 before publishing the first edition of Content Inc. And when I was interviewing a number of content creators and content entrepreneurs, we found that this was the differentiator that separated those who were successful and those who weren't. So basically, what the content tilt is that area of differentiation that you can create in your content that breaks through all the other pieces of content that are out there, all the other content clutter. And if you ask me, why do most content creators fail today? It's usually because they don't define something that truly differentiates them, their content niche in some way. And we could talk about different ways to do that. But it
Mhm.
originated, I actually called it the tilt. If you're a Matrix fan, if you remember in the movie The Matrix, Neo is trying to figure out, is he the one or whatever? And he's sitting in the waiting room and with the small
Mhm.
boy, and the boy is bending the spoon. And he's basically, the boy's trying to teach Neo how to look at this spoon differently so it would bend. And
Mhm.
it took Neo had to tilt his head to do that. And that's where the tilt comes from. So Neo tilts his head and he looked at it differently and then was able to see, oh, maybe this is a thing. Then the spoon actually bent. So what we're trying to do with content creators, we're trying to say, okay, well, your content niche, you're a financial advisor, or you focus on foods or desserts in some way, or civil engineering, whatever it is. I can guarantee you that it's probably not niche enough and it's not targeting a small enough audience. So we want to take that to a point. So you want to figure out, once you figure out your content mission, can you get to a
Mhm.
point, if I asked you, if you did this, if you did the blog, did the podcast, did the YouTube channel, did the TikTok, whatever it was, and you focused on that content niche, could you be one of the leading experts in the world on that thing? And if the answer is no, then you're not niche enough. You haven't found your content tilt. You haven't leaned into your weird. Whatever it is, you have to go that extra mile. And what we find out is most content creators are just talking about all the same things. And they'll get
Mhm.
into a field and they already have competition with 1,000 other creators and media companies and big corporations with billion-dollar budgets. So we want to bring it down and focus on where we can truly be different so we can break through all that content clutter.
That is just, recipe for business 101, period. Right. I mean, regardless of the field that you want to, embrace, somebody has embraced that. In this generation we live in, somebody always, there's competition. That's what I'm trying to say. Right. But what is going to allow you to survive is your tilt, is the differentiator, is that unique thing that you bring in, to the market, to the field that you're embracing. That's what's going to turn heads. That's what's going to cause people to pause for a second and look at what you have and say, we've never looked at it in that aspect, in that light. And pretty much you're correct, right? Talking about the same thing. Yes, we're all unique, right? Because you hear other folks who say we're all unique. So we can all talk about the same thing, but because we're all unique, when you say it, it sounds different. That's true. It to a certain extent, because as you're saying, if we're just saying exactly the same way, of course, I have a different tone, I have a different flavor, but at the same time, the person that's receiving it is just hearing the same information, just from two different sources. Now, what's going to make them want to spend money or want to, really convert to you is the tilt aspect of what you bring in. And that, you can only get that based on the research of your market, target audience, and understanding the unique approach you're taking. Working with experts like Joe on Naya. Now, I love that. I love that. But let's take a step back. Let's take a quick step back here. I want you to share with us actually what motivated that. What you're as the founder of Tilt and Content Entrepreneur Expo. Where did the inspiration come from, right? What inspired you to create this platform? I know you shared the pain point, but the inspiration always comes from somewhere. And how, are they contributing today in the marketing ecosystem per se?
Well, I mean, probably the number one thing. I mean, I've been doing this, as I said, for 20 years now. But in 2020, during COVID, a lot of people that were doing content creation as a business were reaching out and saying, basically asking me for advice, coming from Content Inc., the book, and they weren't successful. They weren't finding a success over and over again. And this just started happening. And I'm like, what's the problem? Like, why aren't people figuring this out? And then you just go back to the research. And so basically, if you look at content marketing or you look at content entrepreneurs, content creators, they fail for two reasons. One is a lack of consistency. So if you don't deliver consistently over time, you're not going to build a loyal audience. It just doesn't happen. So look at your favorite television show, look at your favorite event, look at your favorite blog, your YouTube, they all deliver consistently over time. So that's one. So great. The other thing is this content tilt, this differentiation area. And what happens is it's the content tilt. You take it the next step from your sweet spot. So everyone starts with, all right, well, what's my expertise area? And then on the other side, what are the informational needs of my audience? And most everyone stops there. I'll give you a quick example about taking it the next step. Anthony Fasano, good friend of mine, civil engineer. He's like, I want to start a podcast. Well, engineers talking about civil engineering, which, believe it or not, people doing it. They created a leadership podcast for civil engineers. It's a very small thing to do. It's not rocket science, right? You're just like, oh, what's not available? What does my audience need? And they needed a lot of leadership training. Engineers were moving up. They didn't have that training anywhere. It's like, good, I can fill that gap. And now he's created a multi-million-dollar podcast brand from just making that tweak. And so back to answer your question, in 2020, I was seeing all this and I'm like, why do people not know this? I think growing up in publishing, we realized it right away, because whenever we started a magazine or a newsletter or a podcast or anything, we started with a mission statement. And that mission statement was always, okay, what am I going to create? When am I going to deliver it? Who's the audience? And how are we different? And that's a standard practice in publishing. But what I found out is that content creators didn't do that. They're like, oh, I know this area really well. And here's what I think my audience is going to be. And I'm going to get out and start a thing, which there's nothing wrong with if this is a hobby. But if this is your full-time business and you're trying to financially support your family, you've got to take the next step with it. And that's where I really started to get out there and say, okay, we've got to really start promote this thing. I wrote another edition of Content Inc., the book, and really started to get the idea out there. And then, of course, created a newsletter called The Tilt, even more leading into this, so people would continue to get that as the most important thing after consistently delivering your content.
Man, family, this is a master class today. That's why he gets paid the big bucks. So I hope you guys are taking note. I hope you're enjoying this. Let us know, whether you're enjoying the, audio podcast later, or you're coming back for the replay. Let us know what is the one thing that you're getting out of this conversation if you're enjoying this, because I am enjoying it. This is so essential, right? So essential to our community in order for us to figure out probably the main reason why you're not really getting that, growth that you've been working so hard for. Because one thing that breaks my heart the most is seeing an amazing creator, really good at their craft, right? Working hard, but not really getting any ROI, right? Like what is happening? And well, you just heard what Joe said, right? Like, you really got to be able to take the time to do what I call the foundational work. Because one thing is for you to start a podcast, but another thing is for you to convert people to buy your product or services. So before you even start a podcast, you need to define what the product is, what the service is, and how can you separate yourself from your competition. Then whenever you have a podcast, you can actually talk about that, and people can go and want to, consume or buy or, connect with you. And that is, what's important here, right? So I always say that the podcast or the content we're creating is just the beginning of the conversation, not what ends the conversation, right? So one thing that you said, right, at the conference that we went, shout out to Capsule, #Capsule, right? I'll give you guys a shout out. One thing that you said, you used the word exit, right? So this is what inspired this next question, by the way, Joe. This question is, I wanted you to share, with the community about this. And the question is, what would you say, right, is one major strategy every single entrepreneur should think of and implement when starting a new business, and why? Go ahead and share it, man. Well, yeah, it's so powerful.
Sure, absolutely. And and to your point before, this is any entrepreneur. So any small business, any entrepreneur that you want to start something, you always want to begin with the end in mind. If you've read Stephen Covey's book, you always want to start there. So before you sort of stumble into, this is my business, this is what I'm doing, this is the content, this is the podcast, figure out, okay, what do I want out of this? Like, what are my goals? And if I'm going to recommend you to do something, it would be to write that down, whatever that is, and hopefully it's measurable. And you want to review that on an ongoing basis. And you're setting me up for my example that I used at the Cap Show conference, where I talked about the exit that I had the idea for, that I wanted in 2015. I wrote down in 2008, and it said, I always do things in the past. I write things in the past like they've already happened. I sold Content Marketing Institute for over $15 million in 2015. I wrote that in January of 2008, which is very audacious, JP. Right. It's like, who would do that? I didn't have two nickels to rub together at that time, but I said, okay, this is what I want to accomplish. And I did the number $15 million because I knew that could be $10 million in take home, and it would take care of my family, be generational wealth. And that's what I was going for. And I read that every day. I read that before I went to sleep at night, and I read it in the morning. And I made decisions in the business, in my content creation business, based off of that. And things would happen during. I bought an event on the West Coast when we were getting going at Content Marketing Institute, specifically to hit that goal. I bought an awards program in 2014 that became the Content Marketing Awards, specifically because that was going to help that goal. I focused on long-term growth. I focused on building email newsletter lists over social platforms, specifically because I was trying to hit that goal. So what I found out in working with a lot of content creators, they don't have one of these exit strategies. And by the way, it doesn't have to be an exit like I'm selling the business. It could be, what do you want out of this? What is, when you think in your mind, what is success? What is that for you? Is that spending more time with your kids and your family? Is that moving somewhere? What is it? I don't know.
Mhm.
Is you want to live a better life in some way, get a better job, whatever it is. That's what I want you to think about. And it takes time to get there. It might take you a week, a month, a year to really figure that out, but start somewhere and then review that ongoing. And I was able to accomplish that goal. Probably the only reason is because JP, every day I was looking straight at that goal and I'm like, okay,
Right,
what am I
right.
going to do today to hit that goal? And it took me 7 years to accomplish that. And now you and I are talking. But a lot of creators don't do that. So I would say begin with the end in mind, write that down, review it on a regular basis, and you will see your dreams come true. Because the things that happen, I can't even explain to you until you get into the process that will work, but it absolutely works if you write it down and review it on a regular basis.
Yeah, it does. One of my favorite book tells you to write it down plain, right? And focus on that. And here's the thing. It is a powerful thing to think about what you want out of what you're about to start. It's just so powerful to take a step back before you even started to ask yourself, what do I really want out of this? Like, yeah, of course you want to be successful, but what do I really want? And how can I make sure I get there? And I'm pretty sure one thing that, you didn't lose track of is the expectation behind what you're trying to achieve, right? Understanding that you got to build a realistic expectation and you got to work hard in order to get there, right? So whenever it helps you measure that expectation.
Yep.
That's the beauty of it. Like it doesn't matter, right? You tell yourself what you want out of it. And now, how can I get there? Once you see everything you have to do in order to get there, then you understand the amount of work that you have to do. And you keep working at that, having faith, because without faith, that's vision and faith, right? So you had a vision, you had faith, and you kept pushing in order to get there. And you miss 1,000 shots that you never took, right? If you don't try, nothing's gonna happen, and that's just powerful. I wanted you to share that. Thanks for sharing that. Now, piggybacking and going back to the tilt. I know one question a lot of entrepreneurs listening to this show will be asking, all right, well, how do I actually identify my content tilt, right? Like, well, is there any strategy, right? If I don't know what it is, do you have any advice for any entrepreneur that's trying to figure out the best way or best practice to take in order to identify their content tilt and to separate themselves from the competition in this market? What will that be?
Sure. There's a couple things. The first thing that you want to start with is start where you start. Like, where are you going to, what do you want to do? Like, what is the thing? What is your show? And you can then move to something smaller from that point. So start wherever it is. So and I'll give you a really good example of what we did at Content Marketing Institute. So we said when we started CMI and what our content tilt was going to be, we wanted to be the leading provider of content marketing, educational, and strategy services for marketing professionals. And when I wrote that down in 2008, I thought that was enough of a tilt. I just went forward. We started the blog. We started to build email newsletter list off of the blog. And then when we got to about 2011, I realized that wasn't enough of a tilt, and content marketing just took off as an industry in 2010, and everybody got into it, especially the larger technology companies with a lot of budget. And I'll say it specifically, I can say it because I'm partners with them now, but HubSpot launched inbound marketing initiative. They launched an inbound event. They started to really push hard into content marketing. And I had to be honest with myself and say, I looked at that mission and I said, well, if we keep going with that mission, can we be one of the leading experts in the world in that? And the answer was no. I had to have that heart to heart with my team and with myself and say, there's no way, because we don't have $100 million to compete with this. It's just not going to happen. So I said, okay, what do we have to do? We've got something here. We're building something that I think is going to be successful. How do we pivot or tilt into something that can really differentiate us? And we said, okay, instead of marketing professionals, we said, if we focus on complex content strategies to enterprise marketers instead of just marketers. So instead of just marketing professionals at any size company, we said, let's just focus on those at companies, mid-sized companies and up that are probably $100 million or higher. I said, if we do that, can we be the leading expert in the world at that? And the answer was yes. So we had to change our content a little bit. We had to go a little bit more in depth, a little bit more complex, but we were able to do that. And then we went from a couple hundred people at the first Content Marketing World to hitting 4,000 4 years later in-person attendees, because we've now, and by the way, what's funny about that whole thing, there's a way larger audience with just marketing professionals. We
Right.
theoretically, you think it made more sense to target a larger group of people. No, we went after a smaller group of people and became more of a solution to them because we could really focus on being better than anyone else and really solve their pain points and problems that way. And then we were able to be successful. So back to your question, start where you start and then listen to your audience. Like whoever that is, your email audience, your podcast, start getting into however you can get feedback, do surveys, set up what I call listening posts, get this information anywhere you can to start figuring out, okay, how can I focus on being the leader in something and not just be part of this clutter? Because what we find out is about 98% of creators out there are not successful with what they're doing because they're not being more focused. And you could focus by your audience like we did at CMI. You could focus on your content niche a little bit, which we had to do both at the same time. You might be for a different audience. It might be a different topic. It might be on a different platform. You might say, oh, everybody's out doing this on YouTube, but nobody's doing anything on Threads. Whatever. I'm just making this stuff up, but
Right.
It might be a platform thing. So I would look at all the things where you can have an advantage, because at the end of the day, you want to figure out, how do I create some kind of a moat around our business that anybody can get into at any time? What is a little expertise that you have more than anyone else? What is a little differentiation that you can make that nobody else is doing it? And then once you get that lead, you might have that lead for a long, long time. So there you go.
Man, thank you for that, Joe. Thank you for that. And that's the key word, right? Because we're not just looking to, build or, get a conversion and that's it. The customer said, thank you for what you've done but we're looking to build community, and community are those folks that are really self-ambassadors of the things that your product and services without you even asking them. They believe so much in what you have to offer. And they're just, like following you everywhere, and they're ready to buy your next product. Just like, if we take a product example, Apple, like you have folks that love Apple so much. I mean, they're in front of every new release, there's a line, right? But ask yourself why. This is why. And this is so important that we work hard in order to achieve that. And this leads directly into, my next question, because in your book, in your best-selling book, Content Inc., you mentioned the importance of building an audience before even developing product. So I want you to, elaborate on that a little bit. And how would you even do that, right? When you have not released the product yet? I mean, what's the strategy behind this? Go ahead and share a little bit with us.
So I believe that if you're going to start a business, the best way to start a business is build the customer list first and then launch the products. And what most businesses have done since the dawn of time is they got a great product, they got an idea, and then they're like, okay, how do we market this thing? And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just very expensive, and it's much more difficult to do than just building an audience. So since I grew up in publishing and media, that was the entire business model. The business model is create an audience that knows, likes, and trusts you. And then once you build that audience, you can monetize that audience up to 10 different ways. You can say, okay, I'm going to sell advertising against that audience. I'm going to launch an event from that audience. I'm going to sell products. I'm going to sell consulting services. I'm going to keep those more loyal, because down the road, they're going to spend more money with me. I'm going to take donations. I'm going to do affiliate marketing, whatever. You could do all the products and services and books and everything. So you can do all those things. Well, how do you create the advantage of being able to sell so many different things at one time and not just one product? Well, build an audience. Just build an audience that knows, likes, and trusts you. So what we like to say is, if you're going to start this thing, do what figure out what that content mission is going to be. And then you build the show. Like, where's the show at? And you only do this one place. Like, And by the way, you have a podcast, you're distributing different places, but you have one show here that you're focusing on. And like, I have one show that's This Old Marketing, or I have a show that I'm focusing on, which would be technically the Tilt newsletter. So focus on that one show. And where is it? Is it email newsletter? Like, what's core home for you? Newsletter, podcast, YouTube. Focus on that and build that audience. And hopefully you're thinking outside of just social following, and you're saying, okay, well, how do I get direct connection with that audience? It's some email offer that you can deliver a valuable email newsletter on an ongoing basis. And if you just did that, you've got your show home, and you've got your email newsletter, and you've got your content tilt and your content mission that's driving the whole thing. And then it takes time to build that audience. And that's the downside with this whole thing. And this is where I want to set people's expectations correctly, because let's say I started my business in April of 2007, and I didn't know that we were going to make it till probably September of 2011. So I took, a solid 4+ years before I said, well, I don't have to work for somebody else anymore. It takes a while to build that audience. It generally takes about 2 to 3 years to do this really well. So, you do what you got to do. Like, over those years, I did a lot of consulting. I did a lot of coaching. I did a lot of anything that I could do to keep the lights on until we built a loyal enough audience where I could launch things like Content Marketing World, the event, or Chief Content Officer Magazine, or This Old Marketing Podcast, or all the other things that we monetize for that. So that's what I would say, is just focus on what that base is, and then you can go ahead and diversify all those different ways. I don't know of a better way, JP, to launch a business than to say, hey, you want to launch the most successful business in the world and sell?
This is Todd.
Hi.
This.
Sell whatever you want, then you go ahead and make sure you build out audience first. And then you can go ahead and say, hey, what do you want to buy? Do you want to buy coaching, consulting, product A, product B, go to my event, sponsor my thing, do whatever, 17 different ways? You can do that because you have a loyal audience that will ultimately buy anything from you.
Best way, hands down. and that kind of guarantees your success out the gate, which is genius way to really put a new product out there. Thank you for that strategy. And of course, you have the folks that will tell you, well, Joe's all sounds great, man. You talking big game, man. Like, it's not that easy. Fantastic, it worked out for you, but maybe you wouldn't be here telling us that, right? You have those skepticals, right? And so I want to ask you, in your professional expertise, what are some of those misconceptions, right, that entrepreneurs face to really, implement or develop their, content tilt strategy? What's stopping them?
Setting a real honest expectation of how long this is going to take is really important. When my wife and I started our business in 2007, we had to make some very tough decisions and say, these are first world issues all the way, but we had to say, can't do 2 cars anymore. We're doing 1 car. Can't do the out of town vacation this year. Got to be careful with the expenses. We just had 2 kids. They're 4 and 6 years old. This is, we got a lot of expenses going on. My wife calls them the bologna and ramen noodle years. Like, we cut back because we knew that it was going to take time to make this happen. So that's one thing. Set your expectations and set your expenses so you can make it through the 2 to 3 years to build that audience. So that's the one thing I would say. The second thing is, and I call this content energy. It's like, we only, as content creators and marketers, we only have so much energy to be great at a few things. So what you generally see creators and marketers do, they're like, okay, I've got this great idea. I've got this new widget that we want to get out there.
Right,
and we want to do a podcast, a YouTube channel. We want to be on TikTok. We're going to do a webinar series. We're going to do an in-person event. I'm going to go on the road and speak. I'm going to do 6 books. I'm going to do the research report. I'm doing all the things, right? And you're mediocre at best. You're master at none of them, and you're not going to be successful. So you have to figure out, and the average enterprise actually does 13 to 15 different things. And I would say, you need to cut that down to like 3 to 4, 2 if you can, so that you can be amazing at those things. And you have to make some tough choices. Strategy is about saying no to as many things as you can, so you can say an emphatic yes to one thing. So figure out all of the little things that are not adding to your business where you can say no, and figure, I'm going to say yes to the podcast or to the email newsletter. And that means maybe I'm not going to be on Twitter X right now. Maybe I'm not going to be on YouTube. Maybe I'm whatever it is. but make those decisions so that you can be great at a few things, and it will absolutely pay off. You'll build your minimum viable audience. And then once you build that audience of 5,000, 10,000, whatever you get to monetization, then you can diversify. Then you can do the additional podcasts and the research report and all the other things because you can afford to, because you already have the loyal audience built.
Right. And that is so true because when you look on the market today, right, you've seen the attention span is very short. We live in this microwave society today where people want everything right now today, but I mean, it takes time. That's what Joe is saying, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, Joe. It takes time to build, things of legacy. Things are gonna last. It takes time, and that's the hardest thing. Honestly, you said it. I'm repeating that. It's really the hardest thing because you're looking at your friends probably or your circle, right? That they've started way longer before you did, and they kind of have everything figured out, and they're in their, walking in their spotlight, I should call it, and you want that, right? You're like, oh man, I want to be there, and which is today it is so easy to really leverage technology that we have at our disposal because it's not that expensive anymore, right? And you can just leverage it to start all the podcasts and start creating those pages, websites, and you name it. Like you're everywhere, like you're doing everything, and at the same time you're doing nothing.
Well, the one really good thing to keep in mind, because he's probably the number one creator in the world, is Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
As we record this, Mr. Beast just did a $100 million deal with Amazon MGM to do a big show called Beast Games, hitting it out of the park, right? Well, started in 2012 on YouTube. Didn't get a consistent topic for a couple years. Didn't have, I think, had 30,000 followers, subscribers to YouTube in 2016. That's 4 years. 4 years, get to 30,000. That's, which is great, but not monetizing anything, not a business, not doing anything. Hits 1 million in 2017 and then becomes the Mr. Beast that we all know. So really gets 5 years. And Mr. Beast, like, heads down, doing crazy things, amazing, trying everything on YouTube. That should really be a good example for all of us that it takes a long time. I mean, most businesses fail in 5 years. So content creation is not like any other business. This is just a regular business. It takes 3 to 5 years to get this thing off the ground. So you just have to have the right expectations to know what you're getting into.
And you got to believe in it. I mean, honestly, it took me, started my business 2012 up to 2020, 2021, around there to, open my brick and mortar. And that wouldn't have happened if I had just thrown out the towel, didn't believe, and didn't keep pushing and working hard. It's just, it's just how it goes. And we got to learn from, people that have done it over and over and over again. Is a clear blueprint. If we follow it, it will yield. It will yield. And that's the most powerful thing. We're almost at the end of our conversation. I can't believe it. I looked up and I was like, oh, snap. What a great conversation here, man. Before I ask you how we can connect with you and, all the amazing things you're going to be part of here soon, I just want to ask you, when you look ahead, right, what trends do you foresee or in the, the world of marketing, right, enterprise marketing? What do you see? Do you believe AI is it, or do you believe there might be something else that's coming in your field? What do you see?
Oh, it's hard as we're having this conversation. It's hard not to put AI at the top of the list and say this thing, whatever it's going to be, is going to change our lives and careers more than anything else that we've seen. I mean, and I think. So we talked before the show about, like, when I started this, there was no internet, and then internet. So the no internet and then internet, and that was a huge deal. And I'm like, oh my God, this is really going to change everything. And that's exactly how I feel about AI. I just don't know, to be honest with you, JP, if I'm happy or really worried about it, because we already know vastly changing workflows. Right now, I would say that 99% of the creators and marketers that I talk to have already changed their workflow in some way. They get up every day and spend multiple minutes, 10, 15, 20, an hour a day on experimenting with AI tools on how they can become better, smarter, integrate them in their process, content ideation, whatever it is.
Right.
And this is just we're right at the beginning.
Tip
We're
of the
right at the
iceberg.
beginning. And the other thing is that we know, and here's the thing that keeps me up at night with this, JP, is the whatever AI tool we're using is the dumbest tool that we're going to use. My friend Paul Raitzer at Marketing AI Institute says this all the time. It's like, we're already 9 to 12 months behind. There's already something out there. So I don't want to be all doomsday, like you have to, get a shelter somewhere, move to Wyoming. What I'm saying is that I think it's on us to a little bit of every day we should be experimenting with this thing, so we're prepared for wherever it's going to go. It could be amazing. It could be a really critical advantage if we know how to use these things really well. And I don't know if there's there's probably a lot more downside to just saying, I don't want to deal with it.
Correct.
Which might always be an opportunity, but I think even if you choose not to use it for your ideation, for your creation, for your integration, whatever, I think it's your responsibility to at least be educated about it. So that would be my recommendation.
Fantastic way to close. Joe Pulizzi, man, you're amazing. Of course. How can folks connect with you? What do you have coming up, and how can people come and, feel you in person, just like we did, a couple of months ago? I mean, share with the folks, man. Let us know.
Absolutely. So Content Entrepreneur Expo 2024 CEX is in Cleveland, Ohio, May 5th through 7th. I'm hosting the event. I'll have the opening keynote and I'll be the host throughout. I'd love to meet you in person. Go to cex.events. That's cex.events. Check out the lineup. We've got the amazing BJ Novak from The Office, who's our closing keynote. We got Justin Welsh, Jay Klaus, and a bunch of amazing creators that are going to be there. Use code JP100. JP100 to save yourself $100 off. I'd like to see you in person. Please come see me there. And then if you want more about me personally, just go to joepulizzi.com, PULIZZI.com. I have a newsletter that I send out to all my friends, families, and family and colleagues, and I'd love you to get that. It's basically about leadership tips, content creation tips, marketing tips, like what JP, you and I just talked about. So that's the best place to find me.
Hey, man, you said it better than I could have, and this was an amazing time. I mean, I have so many follow-up questions that I could ask you. I'm thinking, man, we need to have a part 2 to this in a couple of months, and that would be fantastic.
That'd be great.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Please wait backstage as I close with everybody here. Again, thank you for taking the time. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, you heard it, man. This is the best way, man. The best way to really create your content, tilt and separate yourself from the competition and really create a business, right? Something sustainable that you can be proud of and, really make your dreams come through, right? But also understanding that in order for your dreams to come true, you have to be realistic. And that is one thing that we need to look in the mirror and establish, right? What's realistic in regards to the dream that we're trying to set ourselves, right? And what sacrifices are we willing to pay today in order to see that come to pass? Those are very important questions, and it was raised today with Joe. And so I really, really appreciate you for stopping by and being here with us. If you appreciate it, of course, go ahead and give us a like and let us know in the comments, right? Wherever you are, where you're listening from, where you're watching it from, what was your takeaway? And come back, see us next week. We will be here, family. Same place. We will be here for another episode here like we do every single Tuesday. My name is JP. It was an honor to serve you. See you guys next time, like we always say. Peace.